Hello, hello, hello. I'm gonna be trying to fix my audio settings here for a little bit. That's just ultimately what it's gonna be like. As it usually is, because I struggle with getting my audio settings correct for the most part. Which is a bit unfortunate, but yeah. Okay, that should be them fixed. But yeah, there's been a bit of a delay between me, my last stream and the current one. Just an not really unfortunate. A lot of new games coming out and lots of other things to do in life, especially school. And some of my friends are having some issues that I was just, being a good friend and helping sort out. This seems to be an okay build. So I'll go with it as a start. The other ones aren't all that great, but yeah. So today's stream may not be all that long, as it was starting pretty late for what I would normally like, but it should be fine overall. There we go. I could either do Death and Jaguar, Death and... well, I haven't even gotten to Death and Serpent yet. I guess I should do Path to Insanity then, just to try and get it done with. The weapons aren't all that great, and it gives me access to stats pretty early on, as well as a couple of other things, and I can pivot to either direction, which will probably be this direction here. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go with this. The setup that I run, which I should probably go over, you saw the weapons. I have this weapon here that deals crits on finishers. It's just a nice thing to have, as it lets me just kind of make sure I deal enough damage with my finisher to actually finish things. The shield's one of my favorite shields in the game, or I should say one of, if not my favorite shield in the game, just because of the fact that it will give me such an immense benefit of 25% chance to automatically trigger a parry. If you're not aiming for parries, it'll just occasionally give you them, as well as have some scaling, and then the bow doesn't matter to me in the slightest. But yeah, overall it wasn't great weapon selections for how upgraded my weapon alters are, but it's manageable. I'm just going to be doing my best to avoid taking damage to benefit from Grace the Tempest here. Unfortunately, my finishers can't even kill Serpent yet, so I will have to deal with that soon. I very nearly just pushed myself into a lot of damage by just running into the Grub's explosion. Don't know how my dodge there didn't actually protect me. Unfortunate things. Also very unfortunate the enemy just barely survived there, but what can you do ultimately? That is going to cost me quite a bit there, seeing as I will no longer have the option to even get a 2% damage bonus for this room. Nothing all that great here, this is okay. I don't like using spears as my main weapon though. It's ultimately just going to be an interesting question of whether or not I want that specific effect. And it's not all that effective. Taking a hit this early on with no thing to heal off of makes me think it would be better to just return to the main hall for this run. I could work to try and build up off of it, but if I want to clear that as quickly as possible, I'm going to want to aim for something like this. Or otherwise, these sort of effects are important to allow you to have a chance at winning altogether, because without them you will just not have a good enough start. especially on the later difficulties. The later difficulties in this game very reliant on RNG in some degrees because of how many multipliers are working against you. I really don't want to run one of the relics that gives me, one of the main weapons that gives me double damage taken, but it's not looking like I have an option otherwise. It would ultimately be either this or maybe even this, because they provide sustain. Yeah, I think I'll ultimately just have to go with this. The double damage there is going to... hello, Simulons. It's good to see you there. It's ultimately going to be just a bit of risk taken, and that's fine by me. Do tell me if my audio gets disjointed again, Fabri, because it happens a lot. Or, I shouldn't say it happens a lot, it's only happened that once, but I'd like to avoid it if at all possible. Ooh, a bit of a game freeze there, which was a bit worrying. Yeah, and this game, as you said, has a very interesting art style. I really enjoy it, and it's one of those things that keeps it kind of interesting compared to some other games that have almost like overtuned graphic settings, you could call it. But yeah, it's a nice change of pace from some other games. A lot of what this game is just optimizing what you do and what you don't do, and a lot of what you do is explore random side rooms at the risk of maybe taking some extra damage to try and get a bit more benefit. And it's honestly a very enjoyable game, but you can get very, very easily killed for bad plays. And my build is focused around playing as least bad as I can. As such. That'll be a nice benefit to my build for now. This game plays very much like a lot of other fairly common styles are, where you sort of move up the map and fight bosses along the way, trying to weigh risk and reward, and as you say, quick death times means more skill needed. That's definitely a factor that is important to consider, but this game, unlike a lot of other roguelikes, you can learn pretty easily. You just have to commit enough to learning it, which I do appreciate. Some roguelikes will either just be about committing enough time where you unlock powerful benefits that let you win more easily. Some of them are indeed like this one, where you're able to actually win with a decent bit of practice, but some of them just ultimately rely on you having they have what you would call a high skill ceiling or skill gap between the player base, because you require so much skill to do anything effectively. And yeah, it definitely makes it a lot more fun to have high death times, high skills, and in my opinion, it makes it a lot more fun to watch because you see people doing a lot more riskier, a lot more different strategies. I am going to replace my current daggers for this one. It provides health regen as well as bonus damage with a mace, so in the current times it'll be nicer. Core mechanic in this game, obviously, based off of its name, Curse of the Dead Gods, is the curse meter in the bottom, and it goes up as you go through rooms. It goes up if you don't want to spend your gold, and so forth. And when you reach one of the curse thresholds, you'll get a curse, which can either be good or bad. This one is an interesting one. Blood offerings do not cost corruption, they cost health instead. and so you can sacrifice your health bar for just more options in a run, which is always nice. There, unfortunately, I took a hit. I was not well prepared to get around that enemy, though it should currently bleed out due to poison. So I'm just going to dodge it as effectively as I can. And as you see there, an effect I didn't quite realize is that if an enemy dies to the poison effect of a poison weapon that has, for example, health restored on kills, it will actually give you the health back. Some synergies don't actually do that. But yeah, with the current difficulty that I'm doing, which is second highest, it means that enemies attack much faster, they do a lot more damage than base tiers, and a couple of other factors like less rewards in certain sections and so forth. Get to see our first relic options here. Nothing all that great. This is an okay option, but it's not really worth sacrificing my health bar for as of now. That critical damage is a very interesting option, seeing as I can crit pretty consistently, as well as it gives me Constitution to increase my health pool off of. So I think I will go after that. Yeah, it's going to cost me, I believe, 300 HP for that, but I can make that HP back up in no time. 350 actually, but yeah. Gold or weapon upgrade here. I'm going to want to upgrade one of my weapons, so I believe I'm going to take the gold instead of another relic. Yeah, so once I did get my new Xbox, I got a couple of days back and set it up to play the new Destiny expansion. Also probably going to get Black Ops Cold War, but that depends on time and commitment, because I already have a lot to do. It is hard to commit to multiple games at once, more than I already do. It is very, very powerful though, which is nice. Unfortunately, I don't have an actual monitor to make full use of it, running, I think, a 780p monitor that I've had for years and years, that I just haven't spent the time to replace. That's probably going to be the first thing that I do replace the next time I have the opportunity to buy something. My video, I do not know why the game is stuttering so hard. It's a bit unfortunate. I'm going to try to close out of some things to see if that helps it. Hopefully it will, and yeah. Just have a couple of things running in the background. Yeah, 780p monitor. It's literally ancient. I believe I got it from one of my brothers, or it was just literally for my first Xbox that I used, which was a 360, and so I've just never replaced it. And I mean, to give it credit, it has not broken in the meantime, which is surprising, but it's very bad graphics. In comparison to the current laptop that I'm running this off of, which is, I believe, 1280p, 144 Hz. It's not the, or 1080p, sorry. It's not the best in the world, but it's definitely worth the price that I paid for it. And I can always do what I'm planning to do eventually and get a second monitor to make use of. And when I do get a second monitor, I can also use that as my Xbox Series X monitor. I look forward to not having to deal with the terrible low quality, though I do want to maintain a bit of a small screen size because it helps with competitive play. Or the Crucible in the case of Destiny. But yeah, a lot of this game, as is with other games, is learning the different little mechanics that certain things have. I'm still learning how to deal with the Serpent Temple, which is the temple I'm currently in, and it's just overall going to be a bit of an experience. I should have enough gold by the end of this room to actually buy a weapon upgrade, though I'm not all too sure, with the cost of cursed upgrades being a bit higher than I would like. hopefully the vermin in this room will just chain kill each other, which is just a nice benefit to dealing with them in the correct order. Surprisingly, I can actually finish the enemy off with one full combo, which is quite enjoyable. Unfortunately, that enemy's animation had it move forward, which pushed me into them. The previous enemy's little explosion effect there. And I took a sizable amount of damage. So I nearly made it out of this room without taking a hit, but unfortunately did. I can live with those hits, because I should be able to beat the boss with what I currently have. Get a pretty sizable plus 10 damage with that, or a bit smaller on this though. Currently mainly using this. I do think this is probably more worth it, because it will scale much higher as I go forward. And I'm also quite fine with being on low health. As long as I'm able to actually dodge, my main weapon will dramatically improve. Lots of little traps that you can spot much more easily while having the torch out. Which is why a lot of this game is just making sure you do minor things, learn where certain things are and where certain things aren't. Like that, if I had paid attention better and noticed that there was a poison cloud, I could have avoided that extra damage that I took. But it's one of those things that you just have to get used to and learn better positioning with. I plan to do a decent number more gold offerings over the course of the run, and it's early enough that I don't have to balance out my relic slots, so I may as well take that. It's not all that great, and the 4% HP would have been nice, but I can live without it. I am able to hit combo the priestesses, or prophetesses, sorry, so I am glad for that. I'll just have to work on killing the remaining ones. You'll see me do a lot of very excessive dodges, and that is just in an effort to ensure that I do actually get out of range. I am off of actually having enough for this. I may as well offer the blood in that case. Both of those benefit me over the course of the run, and you lower my HP pool, the higher the damage side of this will go. As you see there, it's scaled further. Plus 5 damage with that, and yeah, we'll move on to the first boss, or champion as this game calls it. This is one of my least liked enemies just because I'm very bad at killing her. She has a number of mechanics, like these skulls are pretty fine. That attack is also manageable, but it's some of the later attacks that can really just wombo combo you into a very bad situation. Not all the greatest start I could have asked for, but it seems like I'll be able to manage. This attack there is one of the more deadly she has. As you saw there, I nearly got caught in the skull explosion, and if I got caught in that explosion and she immediately followed with that attack, I would have been hit by both continuously, and that last chain has a large number of hits on top of a pretty dramatic amount of corruption increase, so it will cause you to be in a bad situation for the fight, and even if you survive the fight after getting hit with that, you'll be in a pretty bad situation afterwards. One of the things I've learned about this fight is it's just a lot about being patient and actually dealing with the room. If you're able to maintain your distance and get in a couple of hits at a time, as well as dodge the minor attack pattern she has, it's a pretty straightforward fight. Not quite as easy as the first boss of the Jaguar Temple, but it's manageable. So I will be able to get a pretty clean kill on her here, and yeah. Thanks to one of my blessings, I'll get 5 drops instead of 2, so I should be able to have a decent bit of movement there. As you see, every time you kill a boss, you will get a curse removed. This would be tempting if I didn't have my current dagger. This one will scale very rapidly with perception. I have a decent perception stat that could increase over time. Don't currently have a whip. 5% criticals heal you is very, very powerful with any amount. Enemy attacks deal less corruption, or divine favors is a difficult choice. And 30% gold offering costs is also nice. I think ultimately I'm going to take this. Take this as well. It'll just overall reduce the amount of corruption I get from bad plays, reduce my own corruption by a bit, and I think I will just give up on this. The percentage chance to inflict lightning is nice, but I won't get any benefit out of the sword, and I lose my only healing capabilities. And I do like to have at least some amount of healing, because even though my main weapon does scale off of the amount of health I'm lost, it is better to maintain some amount of it overall. Just to avoid the risk of actually dying. Bloodlust is an interesting one. It's going to very much hurt my capability to make gold for the gold offering relics that I took. Gold offering cost reduction, as well as gold offerings remove corruption, because it basically removes the greed counter with a bloodlust counter. And don't get me wrong, bloodlust is an extremely powerful effect, in that it gives basically anyone that uses it healing. But it's unfortunate because I'm at the point where I don't need or want healing currently, and so the extra gold would have been preferable. Going to try and chain that attack there to stop it from spawning the vermin. It spawned it anyways, but I should be fine with this room. I managed to wipe out the first prophetess pretty easily. I will try and wait on the second one so that I can get rid of the room and then deal with her, because she is an elite. Elites have different attack animations, more health, or I shouldn't say different, additional attack animations, far more health, and deal far more damage. So you just gotta be very careful about how you play around them. Being aware of the room, if you see in the corner there's those little vines, those will attack me as such, and you just want to avoid them. Managed to get a pretty clean clear on that room, and now I'm offered the choice of do I upgrade the main weapon or otherwise, and I think I will just ultimately go with another upgrade on the main weapon. It is very tempting to go for this, just because it is basically what I'm using, it seems. What do I want to scale my build around? I have bonus critical damage, I have bonus damage on daggers, I have healing, this provides healing as well. It's a bit difficult because they rely on me actually getting progress on them, getting further into the run. If possible, I would replace this because it makes it very risky to do any bosses, but is one of the more solid options for just killing enemies, and I think I'm going to need that throughout this run, especially with the fact that as long as I can out-damage enemies, I will be able to deal with them. In a lot of cases in this game, better offense will be the best kind of defense, and while there are a lot of different builds you can run, running something like just full-on damage will usually end well for you. That upgrade is proving fruitful there. As you see, I am able to one-combo the mushroom husks, husk cores, Plaguebringers. I have not played in a long time, so I had forgotten the name. Unfortunately, thought that I could get the rest of my attack animation off there, and I did not. I got hit because of it. This is one of the enemies that I like the least in this Serpent Temple, because it literally just spawns that and then does that. And it's very obnoxious because the additional things in the room from its first attack are just quite the nuisance. As you see here, I'm doing upwards of 156 damage on the final hit of my, what is it called? The final hit with my mace, which is definitely powerful. It's definitely something I want to maintain, if at all possible, but will that be fruitful enough for me going forward? It's hard to tell. The extra damage is very solid, though. Fortunately took a hit there, so I'm going to lose a lot of HP, but... So I'm going to lose out on the benefit that I would have gotten there, I should say. But yeah. Well, an interesting choice, but I am not going to take any of those. I have a decent number of divine favors, so hopefully I'll get to a relic room, which I will be guaranteed to get through here, basically. But yeah. It's currently interesting because this is kind of... It's definitely helping me maintain my HP, but maintaining my HP means that I am losing out on damage on my main weapon. I'm going to aim for the Titan Skull first, just because I hate them and want to get rid of them. As you saw there, I thought that was destroyed, so I walked next to it. But the spin animation for the Serpent is very generous in regards to how I dodge. It gives you a very large frame to dodge through, and is overall a fairly easy thing to dodge, as long as you just notice its sign and dodge it in the right time. Those both will bleed out, a bit more HP, and I can basically be done with that. A couple of extra enemies over there, and I will, it appears that I will at least have to go through them. Fortunately, there's no Elite Prophetess, which I do not like fighting, but I will have to fight anyway. That animation there is one of the safest animations from this enemy, just because it literally means they're doing nothing. They will do that stance, and then if you do attack them in the time that that stance is up, they'll do a little teleport attack on you. But if you just don't attack them, they do nothing. As long as I click fast enough, it appears that I will be able to get through their animations, and thankfully I do. There's another Elite Prophetess here. See here, it's doing one of its animations that makes it one of the more obnoxious enemies in the game, as it's buffing the enemies. Any kind of buffing that's provided to them will make them all the more difficult to understand their mechanical paths. Their very straightforward attack patterns get changed up, so what you're used to dealing with is much harder to deal with. 15% to poison attacks isn't all that necessary, so I think I'm going to pass on it here. And same thing with fire attacks, not really doing those, so there's no need for it. It was indeed a gold room, so I'll move on. It's a decent choice here of what to do. I think I will just... My best chance at killing a coming boss is to upgrade this as much as possible. Is it worth the massive amount of curse I would take by doing this, then followed by a relic room? It's hard to say. There's also 2 starting relic or weapon upgrades here, so I think I'm just going to go the safe way and go to gold and then a relic upgrade, because that will guarantee me at least an okay relic that I should be able to buy without spending corruption, and then it's followed by a challenge room, and the challenge rooms will provide a large amount of gold. Behemoth, and I believe as an elite based on their height, so I'm going to go for them first. Don't know how that attack just kind of whiffed there, but it did. As you see there, they're glowing red from the prophetess buff, which means she's doing nothing right now, but they're getting buffed. She's no longer doing nothing. Thankfully I'll actually be able to kill her because of that. But yeah. That is one of those attacks that you have to avoid for the peanut, because they will just kind of go over everything. Running that many downloads on your laptop may get a bit rough. Or your desktop, I should say, sorry. I'm running Ethernet currently through a decent internet service. Or I have a decent internet plan, and I'm running Ethernet. And my connection still gets a bit interesting times, especially when I'm running multiple downloads at once and so forth. The burner count, yeah. Unfortunately, I actually broke him out of his stunned animation there, or his immunity phase, I guess you would call it, because then he was able to actually do stuff right after he had summoned the little the vermins, I should say. So hopefully in this coming relic, I will get something useful to my build. I'm not critting as much as I'd like, so any other upgrades would be beneficial. I am going to go for the Titan Skull first, because I hate them. Managed to activate the trap and send it to hit them, though I wasn't paying enough attention and almost got hit by a different trap. And yeah. What you saw just there is a mixture of just bad movement. I rolled at the wrong time and got hit with both the enemy's attack and the snake trap and died for it. That is the risk you run when using cursed weapons such as the one that I used, where you take double damage. It's a very risky build, but as you saw, it was fairly straightforward moving through the dungeon. Yeah, my Ethernet is directly connected to the router. I just have a massive cable going to the room that has said router. This looks like a great build, by the way, but I'm going to check over on the other ones first as well, just in case. This is another okay build. Warmonger's Claws are almost guaranteed win, just in general, and some healing is nice. Grab another one of these, but I don't really want that, per se. I think I'll probably end up going with the Warmonger's Claws. No. Actually, that build that I just picked up there, I think, may just only be better. These two synergize very well, and Venomous Claws are one of the better claws in the game. But yeah, did you enjoy seeing how easily you can die in this game, Simulons? It's quite fun. By fun, I mean stressful. I am going to upgrade my heavy weapon altar because I do need to have a bit more options for it. That will actually reset my drops, so now I will have to find other items, but yeah. It basically just gives me a chance for actually useful heavies. This Incandescent Claws build here looks very nice. This doesn't have too much synergy, and I don't like pistols all that much, but it is seeming like it's going to be my best option. All of these have fire, this has healing, this is bonus damage and light. This could scale very well, but I kind of want this just because of how much fire synergy it has, and I can weaken enemies. Corruption control is also something very important to me, and with claws, your charge attack will always crit, so I think I'm going to take this and go with it. Make another attempt on Path to Insanity. Very fitting name. Having access to this many stat ups is very tempting. 3 full stat ups, but I miss out on this many relics. I'm gonna go here, see how this room goes, and then decide which path to take. Because depending on what weapon I get here, and what other options I see throughout it, maybe I get a relic to drop from an enemy and it works out, I could decide on a different course of, or a different path for what to do. By the way, the reasons I don't like pistols. Bad. I took a bad hit there trying to make show of that, which is unfortunate, but it was manageable. Early on, it's unfortunate to lose that 2% damage bonus that I get for flawless clearing a room, but ultimately, it's not going to cost me a run to miss out on one or two of them. The vermin are killing off the plague bearers that summon them, which is fine by me. Or plague bringers that summon them, I should say. As you see there, there's a number of different options for how you actually attack, depending on how you want it. I made badly timed dodge there, which cost me a hit, which is unfortunate. But this room was already a bit of a wash because I had taken a bad hit before, so I'm fine with taking a hit now, because it doesn't change anything. It does cost me my greed kill, which lowers the amount of gold I'll get in the end, but there's not much I can change about that as of then. It would be interesting to run this. Just having that many multipliers working together. Though unfortunately I don't get any benefit from the poison, and multi-hitting enemies is quite hard on boss fights, so it's not really all that worth it. These do effectively the same thing, so this removes, this does bonus based off of its distance, while this does just guaranteed critical damage, as well as guaranteed fire. I do think I'm going to need higher or better relics for this run, so I'm going to go with that. Over the guaranteed stats, it is very hard to give up that many stats, because that's 30 odd stats that I missed out on with those rooms, but there is a chance to have a stat up room in one of these too. As well as a weapon upgrade is a good way to get a build going. You can bait out traps like that and just get sort of near, walk out, and then wait for them to finish because they have a bit of a cooling down period, which is an alright way to deal with them. You could also just dodge through them and ignore all of that effect, but yeah. I spy with my little eye, lots of snakes and lots of plague bringers, so I'm going to deal with them. What I could easily get rid of first. I could leave the room, or I could go after these enemies for additional gold and such, and I think I will. I'm gonna let him spawn his vermin, because he always does that. After he takes a certain amount of damage, or after a certain amount of time. Would have been a bit smarter to go in and kill him with the claws, but I prefer to quick kill. I will take the +3 constitution, because I'm going to need some kind of stats while I wait to get other stat rooms. With the plague bringers, you do have to wait a bit of time for them to wake up, as you saw there, or else they will just get immune when you try to attack them. I'm going to let him burn if at all possible, and he does indeed burn to death, which is fine by me. Unfortunately, I let that on fire, which means it's going to shoot out little flaming things, I believe, or maybe it won't. But yeah. Triggering those without need can lead to benefits, as in it will go after enemies, but you can also just take hits that you wouldn't want. Hammer Pendant is very tempting, but I think I'm going to have to pass over it for now because I just need something to boost my damage. 30% to fire attacks is exactly what I was looking for, seeing as both my weapons rely on fire. It's just an overall damage boost. 3 Perception is okay, gives me bonus gold find, which I can live with. And I do get that +1 dexterity thanks to Grace of the Tempest. For those that don't know, Constitution, Dexterity, Perception, basically 50 max health per Constitution, 2% damage per Dexterity, and 5% gold find per Perception. You can get very dramatic numbers for all of those stats, and they can be the carrying aspect of any build. I've had massive Perception runs where if you have for example, that dagger I showed off before that has +3% damage per Perception, you can get pretty insane amounts with that, as well as it gives you all the more access to gold to, I guess, further upgrade your build. That's ultimately what you're going to want to be doing, is making your build better as much as possible. Because even bad weapons can get better if they have good relics, and the same can be said even with bad relics. If you have good weapons or good stats, you can make it work. As you see there, I'm now able to more effectively one-combo the Serpentists with this, which just makes clearing rooms all the more easy. Don't know if I will be able to one-combo them, and I'm not, so I will just deal with it. You're making progress with 2 downloads. I'm done. This is an okay effect. I may as well just take it for now. Live 2D commissions would be very, very nice, and if you found someone for that, that is a great thing, because that I think would be the main barrier for what you want to do, is finding someone who's actually going to be able to do them. So now that you have, it's a very nice start. I was hoping it would target on him, and it didn't, so I ended up getting a bit thrown off and not actually dodging in time. Which is unfortunate. I lose out on that 1 extra dex. I've lost out on a number of... I lost out on that dex in a number of rooms, but it should be fine. I can offer gold here because it's just an easy choice. But yeah. For when I post this on YouTube, the person I'm talking to in chat is Simulan's a good friend of mine. He streams on Twitch as well. Great guy. I'll link his Twitch in the description. Visions of Madness, I really hate it. Taking damage causes hallucinations. Those hallucinations do lots of unfortunate things. Mostly cover up everything, basically your entire HUD, covers up the enemy's health bar, and just overall makes it a bit of a nuisance. This was actually kind of an interesting room to get so early on. A healing room means I can make up for that lost HP I had, and kind of just work from there. I'm going to want to get rid of the Prophetess as soon as possible, and thankfully I will there. As you see, I did a very, very early dodge, and it still gave me the... still allowed me to avoid all the damage I would have taken there. Minus 10% blood offering cost is great, because I'm going to have to be taking those coming up. And the less corruption I can take, the better for me. I got distracted there and didn't quite notice that the vine was going to whip, but as you can see, this is the hallucination effect, and it's kind of obnoxious, to say the least. But yeah, there is an interesting movement of trends going on for live 2D streaming. It's ultimately going to be interesting to see how that, I guess, kind of streaming will evolve and change. As it becomes more mainstream, people are going to do more and more with it. And I'm always glad to give you a shout out, man. You're a great guy, and you make pretty good or I shouldn't say pretty good, you make much better content than me. I haven't even set up a stream layout as of yet. But yeah. Right here is kind of a question of, do I think I could kill the first boss with what I have now? And is it worth it to take the benefits? Because I'll be removing 3 corruption for basically every kill I would get if I buy this, but I don't think that's... It'll definitely help me maintain curse and take more curse offerings later. It's just a bit of a hard thing because I'm not dealing all that much damage with the incandescent claws. And I mean, I could probably beat the boss, but it'll be a bit iffy. This build basically has nothing, and I don't want to commit too hard to just removing greed. It's just a bit of an interesting thing to debate. So I'm gonna roll, and I get something very, very good, which is 45% damage in darkness. Wait, I just realized I create light over darkness, so it's not going to come into effect, so I have to pass on it. I'll do one more roll, and then I'll probably have to give up for this. But yeah. to ultimately give up on that room. Wasted a number of divine favors where I probably should have taken the earliest, but yeah. And yeah, Simulans does a bit different content than me. It's very enjoyable to me, to say the least. And his personality makes listening to him stream just a good time. And I do appreciate the help over Discord. I'm always glad for advice from people who know more about this than me, or from people who know more about this. As you see here with a 14 greed streak thanks to Reptilian Hunger, I'm getting a massive gold bump, though unfortunately I just lost it in the process of talking about that. But it was also giving me a 14% damage increase, which amounted to a lot of my extra damage that I had. Yeah, I'm able to wrap up that room pretty cleanly, and I'll be able to move forward with it. Gonna probably have to end up upgrading the incandescent claws for corruption here, because they are kind of my main way of attacking. I also gain the benefit of 30% damage from behind, which one of the main effects of claws is it launches you behind them to then attack, and it's kind of just a generous benefit for me. Auric Malediction is great for this. I have an okay amount of gold, but that 25% damage reduction is going to be key for dealing with the boss here. And yeah, as you said, Diablo vibes, that top-down sort of vibe is very... it's used a decent bit, but it's very nice. As you saw there, I got hit by the little skull attack there because I got too close, and that's what you don't want to do with this boss, is get anywhere close to her. And unfortunately for me, I have to get close, and I got too close and didn't have enough space to dip back. With this game, it's just a lot of managing your stamina as well as your movements to make sure you don't get hit where you shouldn't. And a lot of that comes from just learning the boss, learning the mechanics of the game, and so forth. I am just going to roll straight through this field of skulls to get rid of them as much as possible. I didn't expect her to do an attack animation that quickly after she had done her last, so I got a bit greedy there. Didn't get punished for it, which is nice, but... She's gonna be dipping in and out of the little engagements that I make against her, to try and make sure I avoid taking any more damage than I've already done. Than I've already taken, I should say. Thankfully, a lot of enemies have this little cooling down period. I just accidentally walked in that. But a bit of a cooling down period, as you saw there, where they will, after they do an attack animation, they will give you a bit of time to either attack yourself or just deal with the attack animation. Yeah, that's the wrap up for that. And yeah, I definitely agree with what you said. I played Diablo a fair bit, and over time it just got a bit difficult to play because a lot of slow pace and so forth. I personally enjoy some slow paced games, but it got a bit tiring at times, and this game, very similar to Diablo in that it's top down, but it's much more fast paced, and you do still have that movement, as in your class can be varied and so forth. I didn't realize it, but I'm running a fire build, which is what I needed to unlock the last relic. So I will, or the last cursed item boss drop. So I will take it, drop it, and then take it again, just to have it, which means that I can give this up for gold. This would be a moderately okay thing, but I don't have any need of it. Similar thing with this. The attacks dealing less corruption could be good. Bonus greed limit is something I do kind of want here. I'm most likely not going to get any later benefit from this, so I'm going to this in specific. So I'm going to give up this for this new relic, which will give me an additional amount of dex. So charge attacks, cast a volley of dark projectiles, does that. Single attack does just a basic swing, and full combo does that. Full combo off of that doesn't really have a full combo. It's the first time I've seen this, and it's actually kind of interesting. I try to a degree to avoid spoilers for some of the later parts of this game, though obviously spoilers is a very limited term. But mostly I didn't want to know all that much about the boss drops, just how to get them. They have a small chance to drop from the boss if you do it in certain ways, and I appear to have done it correctly. I don't actually know what that just did, because it looked like it hit the enemy, but it didn't do any damage. Try it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, wow, that's powerful. That is incredible. These enemies you have to be very careful because their main attack is a charge attack, such as that, and it will catch you unaware if you're not prepared for it. But yeah, this is the kind of weapon that, like, you wouldn't entirely expect in this game because there's such a limit on ranged weapons. Like, obviously in the more recent updates they've added newer ranged weapons. But having this kind of crazy AoE attack is very new to this game, and I very much like. It provides a mix of crowd control as well as other factors for basically free. I accidentally had given up all my stamina there, so I was trying to bait out an attack, but thankfully I just got through with it. But wow, that is an incredible weapon. I'm not all too sure if you could get the boss weapons to drop again, but if you can, I look forward to doing that. Very hefty curse price here. Did not expect it. What is my reduction? Oh, it's only 10%, yeah. 10% blood cost, but yeah. It is nice to get any amount down on that because I'm going to be using that as much as possible. Providing both knockback as well as other effects just helps because you displace enemies, and displacing them means that you'll be able to actually deal with their attacks or any kind of other effects better. If they have an after explosion, you can deal with it, and so forth. Trap chest makes me just not want to open chests. One of the mechanics, simulons that you probably haven't seen me making use of is parrying, because I suck at it. But now basically chests will drop extra gold and a chance, or a very high chance at an extra item, but you have to parry them to get any rewards. And yeah, I suck at parrying. Yeah, this is challenge room. Challenge room's pretty simple. You literally activate this, and the faster you clear the room, the more gold you get at the end. Unfortunately there, you saw that I keep getting hit, and I'm fine with taking it for the benefit of extra gold here. You see 1550, which is going to be end up more than 1550 because I have a decent perception stat. But yeah, that's one of those kind of risks, and besides the fact I knew I had healing because I wanted this other weapon upgrade, but that's one of those risks you're going to have to take in this game is, do you want more gold versus your health? And it's kind of like, I guess the best way to say it would be using your health as a resource. If you can use it effectively, you may as well do so to get a benefit out of it. I have to be very, very careful with curse. What curse reduction do I have? This does reduce curse, but I will be getting another curse in the coming room. It's a bit hard. It's basically, do I want that 150 HP? And I think I do. This coming boss, I'm hopeful that this weapon will actually displace them. As you saw there, those healing rooms just give me a free dex as well. But I'm hopeful that weapon will displace them because a lot of its attacks are very, very tight animations, and if you can displace them even a little bit, it can help you avoid them all the better. And yeah, for a while I tried to learn how to parry, and I got a decent bit better, but I'm still inconsistent enough that it's not worth to do. Unfortunately, because of one of my curses, I could not get to that gold in time, and it despawned. I'm going to try and position myself where a lot of the attacks will hit both enemies. And I did manage to do so, and that one's wiped up. having this incredible of a range, most of the other range attacks are like this, which has a very solid range, and like this, or not like this, but there's throwing knives in the main slot which have a much smaller range. Having that incredible of a range and that many hits at once makes these especially powerful. Yeah, parrying in Dark Souls is an interesting thing. On my playthrough of Dark Souls, I literally just didn't parry, and instead just dodged every attack through their dodge mechanic, which is kind of what I do in this game, in all fairness. And it works incredibly well. By incredibly well, I mean moderately okay, seeing as I've only gotten to the later difficulties and I have not beaten them. It would have been a fairly smart decision to just go up and grab the gold from in between the enemies, but I did not do that because I didn't notice it immediately. But it's fine. As you see there, that's kind of pointing out that it wasn't as worthwhile to grab the health, and I probably should have remembered that with one of the earlier updates they allowed you to replace items with offer them to the gods, as it said, and you get pretty significant benefits for doing that, in some of them being healing, some of them being gold, some of them being corruption reduction, and all of them being very nice. I was about to just open this chest while I was dealing with the enemy, and then I remembered I have trapped chests, so you're going to get to see me trying to parry an enemy. So have fun with that. I especially suck at parrying the chests because I'm not all too confident on their timing, but here we go. Wow, I actually got it first try. That usually never happens. I don't actually know if I get criticals with that. I'm not sure if I do. Gonna take the gold. I don't believe I do, but there's no real... It's almost always a good idea to just have some form of benefit here. It's just hard to decide what to give up, because the 3 dex lowers my damage by enough that it may make it significant, but I think I'm ultimately going to have to do that, because I can build that dex back up, but I can't as easily get the critical damage. I'm still planning to do a Soul Level 1 playthrough of Dark Souls 3. I'm not great at Dark Souls 3. I haven't even technically beat the Soul of Cinder, though I've just been practicing on it for the most part. But Soul Level 1 is a whole other deal, because you're so limited on what you can and can't do in that kind of run. I'm just trying to move around here and see what's here, and I did see the Elite, I saw the other Plaguebringer as well, but this Prophetess means that I'm going to want to kill her first, if at all possible. I do manage to do so. I'm gonna go after the smaller one there as well, just because it makes it easier for me to deal with, because it's one less enemy in the room. Unfortunately, I tried to dodge there, but got locked in the animation of the attack, which I guess is a form of balance for it, that you are unable to move while casting it. Not again. Gotta make sure I have out, like, the torch or something. As you heard there, my parry went off just too late. I basically am just overestimating how long it takes, and it takes much less time than I expect. This is just an easy trade out because I get 3 constitution all the same, and this I can just give up. But yeah, extra hits where I don't want them isn't always the nicest thing, but it's dealable. I'm gonna try and maintain my distance as much as possible and just push the enemies away so they can't attack me. As you see, there attempted to buff its ally there, but its ally was dead, thanks to me. Having this much crowd control potential is very, very new to me. Because I don't use all that many two-handed weapons, and this is unique for two-handed weapons on the level of crowd control you can have. Get another cursed weapon. I don't think I am going to. I'm going to pass up because I want to save my gold for this coming upgrade room so that I can upgrade the staff. Simulons, how's work been for you? Still hectic? Last time I checked in with you on that, it was still going as I had left it, which was not great. But ultimately, having left it, I now have access to doing this as well as... Did not mean to... Well, I shouldn't have done my attack there, basically, is what that came down to. But yeah, it allowed me to do this, it allowed me to focus on school more, which is what I needed to do. Because I'm paying a lot of money to go to school and all that. But yeah. As you saw there, the prophetess initiated her attack animation in the midst of my attack, and was able to teleport behind me immediately. I'm gonna let it bleed out. I didn't want to deal with getting too close to it, if at all possible. Yeah, it's getting very, very expensive, and I'm glad I saved enough gold for this, because I can't afford to spend corruption on it, really. But yeah, that'll be a very nice upgrade, and I'll be going into the next boss. I'm going to really want to make sure I hot swap with this weapon here, because if I don't, I'm going to take way more damage than I want on this. One of its attack animations has just a very rapid spin that will destroy me. Yeah, the lines of cars that we kept getting made the job very much not enjoyable for me, because it made me have to leave my side of the department, and it overall just made it less of a good time. And if it's gotten worse from then, I only imagine how bad it is now. As you see there, it does have some displacement effect on the boss. Not as much as I'd like, but I'm fine with the amount I get. As you see, I'm already able to shave off of this much health from the boss. With minimal effort. This boss becomes very easy if you learn how to parry it effectively. And I need to not be holding out this staff when it's rushing me. That is one of its attacks that presents a risk to me, is its ranged attack. And yeah, basically when it transitions phase, it will do a large number of attack animations in a row, and then come after me. I believe I'll be able to just out-damage it here while it tries to do its next animation. Unfortunate. Okay, that shouldn't have ended there. As you saw, I got to no stamina and just tried to commit to killing it, and it killed me for that. Oh. That was just a very bad misplay on my part, and ultimately I'm going to have to work to dealing with those and trying to make them better. But as you can see, I've now unlocked all but one of the locked weapons. I'm not entirely sure where this one drops from. I believe it may just be another drop from the Twin Gods, but I will have to figure that out at some point. I will go for another run just because I haven't been that successful and I want to be successful. I'm going to try and avoid... Well, I was going to try and avoid cursed things, but this is one of the more interesting builds that I haven't made use of. This dagger scales up very, very powerfully over the course of a run. And it's just that kind of thing you'll want. I could just attempt Death and Jaguar, though I don't know entirely the mechanics of Death and Jaguar. I guess I'll try. I'm very worried about the statement at the bottom that the clock of death ticks down, or the clock of life ticks down, and you only have, or killing enemies only delays it. This seems like a decent choice. This as well. Just depends whether I have enough gold for more relics or otherwise. So yeah, I have no clue how Death and Jaguar works. It appears that I have very limited time to do stuff though, so... Don't know what that exactly is counting down for, but I probably don't want to find out. I feel like that may just kill me if I let it count down. As you see there, second animation on the attack there interrupts. Well, I've learned what Death and Jaguar does. I've very, very well learned what Death and Jaguar does. Okay, so you don't want that kind of scaling weapon for Death and Jaguar. Got it. Whew. That was just an interesting experience. This is the kind of build that I guess I'll make an attempt with. Simulons, I can't tell if you're saying F to the run that I died at the second boss or the run that I just died, but either way it is an F indeed. 30 seconds, gotta run. I believe that should just... Yeah, I get more time if I kill stuff. I just couldn't kill stuff before, and it was hurting me. I'm really a bit worried about the boss fights for this, because Tiamat takes a long time for me. I'm just not going to have time to do stuff that I want to do, like that. I shouldn't have done that. Probably shouldn't go for this gold either, but I'm going to. Thankfully it pauses the timer while you're jumping things, otherwise that would be a very unfortunate source of time reduction. So yeah, this oh, it's a double F, yeah, I agree. This is going to be just a test of how fast I can do stuff. This isn't a need. This kind of relic is very, very powerful to just sustain you throughout the run, and it's worth taking immediately. Whew. Does it pause the timer here? It does, thankfully. Yep, another relic option coming up when I get a free dex there. It will give me my first cursed immediately, but I think I can live with that. Shadow Flame, entirely fine. I believe that's no torch. Oh no, Rage Auxiliate with a Dark Flame. Once again, entirely fine by me. Just basically means that some areas can't be lit up, and I don't rely on lighting things up anyways. I am going to take the short route through this to just try and clear through it. I could probably build up more timer if I went to the other one, but I don't think it's worth it. Especially seeing that... Actually, no, I'm able to kill things fairly well enough. I should have gone to the other way. I could have built up my greed. C'est la vie. 100% all healing effects, very decent option, but I think I need damage here. I'm gonna reroll one more time, and I'll give it one more and then go. HP kill removes corruption is a decent choice. I think I'm just gonna have to pass on these though. Can't afford to take too much corruption as of yet. But yeah, part of the reason I took this build, besides the fact that it came with this cursed sword, which gives finishers in charge attack interrupt, is this shield. This shield is insane. It's insane because it gives a chance to auto parry. Parrying is one of the more powerful mechanics in the game because it's so difficult. They gave it a very powerful benefit, which is you weaken the enemy on top of just stopping their attack. Did have to make a decision there whether to commit to actually getting the kill on the Blood Priest or otherwise, and I decided to do otherwise. Okay, a very powerful heavy weapon, I should say, but I don't think it's the time or place to take it. This dagger would be interesting, but I don't need it. I'm very much fine with the weapons that I have right now. I just need to get upgrades for them. But yeah, what you've seen in the last two runs where I just died immediately is more the result of my own faults than anything. I think I want these stats here. But if you take a lot of risks in this game. If you will end up making bad plays. You will end up doing this or that wrong. That's how you deal with that. That will show whether or not you succeed. And I haven't dealt with them all that great in these last runs, but I've gotten to this point because I've been able to take so many risks in my runs and been able to do what I have. And a bit of those were very unfortunate courses of events that I probably should have been able to predict, but I didn't. But some of them were just a bit interesting of how quickly I died. Like, the first attempt at Death in Jaguar was just pain. I chose a build that is meant to scale slowly over time, and over time, it was time that I did not have, basically. But yeah, having that death timer in the corner is just a bit stressful. Because it just instantly kills you. I am going to take the attributes because I need those most, and I will be able to afford buying both. As you can see, I've been doing these rooms fairly well, so I've built up my decks so much already, even though I have no benefits towards my decks as of now. I will let it finish its entire attack animation, and then go after it, just so I don't have to deal with as much going on in the room. Could have let it break those walls. I could currently break those walls, and I will break this one just because it has a decent amount of gold compared to the other one. But other than that, I don't have the time. Oh, I made a very bad decision there. That room can sometimes have all 5 being spikes, and if it was, I would have just died. As you saw there, I did dodge, but even while you're dodging, it will just decide to auto-parry sometimes. Which, I mean, I appreciate the thought. Curse weapons all fulfill their little niche very effectively, and this one's niche is that it does one of the most powerful effects in the game, which is an interrupt. I didn't even notice the spikes there, but they helped me kill him, so I appreciate them. I'm gonna take gold for the 2, and move quickly on. The 250 max health is just always going to be kind of good, and the gold find will be nice for making sure I can afford later purchases. This is an arena fight, which I'm entirely fine with doing. As you see, I'm able to basically combo down most enemies, though unfortunately I did not time myself effectively there to deal with that one, or the dead wife there. I'm gonna try and deal with the faceless mask there. He set off the explosion there, which basically just killed him by himself, and I'm able to wrap up this room pretty quickly. Nothing I don't want for weapons. I could get a better hammer, 2-handed weapon, but I don't use it. I'm mainly using my main-handed weapon, I guess you would say. Gonna get another curse here, figure out what it is. Dark Swiftness, I'm generally okay with, but I think I'm gonna have to get rid of here. One of the mechanics you've been seeing going on throughout the run is whenever I dodge, or within a certain time frame, I'll get a perfect dodge, which returns my stamina. And this basically makes it so that you no longer get that stamina back, but you get a much longer perfect dodge. But the other effect of it is when you dodge, it puts out your light, and that has killed me in the later parts of this temple. I don't want that to happen again. How I always go about this fight is dealing with the 2 Jaguars and then the boss himself, because his attack patterns are pretty straightforward, and you can deal with them well once you've dealt with the Jaguars. This boss is the introductory boss, is basically the introductory temple, and it helps set a good precedent for the game. The current curse that I have allowed me to dodge that shadow stuff or whatever. What is it? Dark Swiftness, sorry. It shows you that the importance of having good timing, basically. You need to learn his mechanics, you need to learn his timing to be able to beat him, and otherwise you cannot. The way to get this boss's chance at a relic is by killing all of the Jaguars he spawns, and then killing him. And so I get a pretty clean fight on him. I didn't realize I'm actually able to spin in this screen. Spinny, spinny, spin. But yeah. I do not see his drop, which is entirely fine by me. It is a 2-handed weapon that you can throw. And I don't really like 2-handed weapons besides that spear that is kind of insane. Not going to give up my shield. That would be a decent dagger. 50% health when a curse is lifted could be okay, but I'm giving up 2 dexterity for that, and I don't want it. Level +1 on a main weapon is a must. no need for fire damage, and I'm just going to take this because it gives me additional constitution and may occasionally come into effect, because you can always weaken enemies thanks to parries. I'm going to have to spend corruption, but I can go take this path and I should be able to afford the next weapon upgrade. So the first one will be corruption, the second one should not be. If it ends up being corruption, that should be fine, but yeah. Oh, standing still there. I need to remember to pause when I'm doing something else outside the game, or else I will suffer a very early death in this mode. Past the first boss is when you will start seeing the different elites come into play, and usually it's only the easier elites to deal with. As you saw there, I didn't dodge in time, but I auto-parried, which dealt with my problems for me. And yeah, it applied a weaken when I parried, which allowed me to more easily kill the champion. The elite Deadwife is actually a bit of a threat, as well as I believe you can get elite Jaguars now. I really hate Jaguars in general just because of how far their lunge attack is, but the Deadwife with that triple attack, they apply additional curse, they do more damage. That was a risk that I shouldn't have taken, but I did. But yeah, it cost me a lot of corruption. But they deal additional damage, they have faster attack speed, and so forth. The projectiles also move a lot faster. But yeah, if I thought I could commit and deal enough damage, and I couldn't, which is ultimately going to be the name of a lot of my losses in terms of health here. My goal mostly is to try and find additional relics to improve myself, but more so focus on upgrading my sword here, because this sword can carry me through a majority of the content, though I'm not all too sure about how well it will be on Tomahawk. Raging Temple, you saw there, it's not too bad, it just makes literally every Jaguar statue hate everything. I'm not going to worry about Jaguar statues. That room has a couple of extra items you can get, mostly gold, if you spend the time to clear it, but I do not have the time to spend to clear it, so I'm not going to. As you saw there, the Blood Priest tried to heal, and it could heal not, so it died for it. Gold offerings remove corruption, I don't need, so I'm going to take the immediate healing for it instead. I will actually swing to break open this door just because the amount of gold in here is worth it. 100 extra gold could mean the difference between getting something and not. As you saw there, I ran out of stamina, and it cost me a hit of damage. That's one of the things, is you'll see me do that a lot, where you dodge into a room to speed up yourself, and then you take a hit because of it. And I mean, that's just kind of me being lazy and time efficiency, and especially on this, time efficiency is important, so it's fair to be punished for mismanaging it. Yes, Simulans, as of now this is the only playable character. One of the things I see a decent number of people recommend is to introduce other playable characters, other genders, other skins for it. The developer, this is an early access game, very, very early access. And I enjoy it a whole lot myself, but I may as well take this for the same reason I mentioned before. But they haven't introduced any kind of monetization to it yet, besides just the initial purchase, which is fine by me. I'm gonna go for the attributes. And so yeah, currently this is the only playable character. All of the characters have lores behind them, which is one of the more nice parts of this. Is as you play the game and beat the bosses, as you see I've only killed Tomahawk 4 or 5 times, you'll unlock massive amounts of lore for each of them. And there's overall lore to the temple, there's lore to the progenitor of the final curse, which you haven't seen me hit. There is some builds that rely on hitting the final curse, but the final curse is often too risky for me, and I usually don't get the relic for it on runs where I would hit it otherwise. The final curse, what it does is it constantly depletes your health until you die. I probably should have just offered corruption for that. Now that I'm looking again, that basically ruined my chance of getting through the next one, the next weapon upgrade without having to spend, but I'm kind of just used to avoiding spending corruption on stats whenever possible. take gold for that. It makes up a bit of the differences that I've lost because of that, but it won't make up enough to let me afford this upgrade, most likely. This is where I can take a look at, see number of weapon upgrades here. I'm going to get a curse on this floor, but I could end up getting a second if I take a weapon upgrade here that I can't afford. I think I'm ultimately going to have to pass on this weapon upgrade, even though I really don't want to. Just to try and avoid getting to the final curse. As you see there is a bit of play in pushing enemies into spikes. The environment kills, there are some builds that try and work around environment kills, though I've never seen them be used effectively, because usually it's just healing based off of environment kills. As you saw there, I wasn't paying good enough attention to the dead wife, and it very nearly cost me. And having 2 blood priests up means that I'm going to have to deal with at least one before I can actually deal with a high health elite or enemy like an elite. So I'm just going to wrap up both of them. Actually went into the dead wife, which allowed me to just clean it up pretty nicely. Fortunately, cannot afford it. I could have afforded it otherwise. It's tempting to upgrade the shield or otherwise, but I think I just need to move forward. I do have a level +1 on main weapon. Yeah. My timer is solidly built at 238. Should be able to maintain it fairly well. I'm just a bit worried. Deadly Obsession. I'm trying to remember. This one. Yeah, this one is real unfortunate because it reduces my max stamina but gives me back 2 for perfect dodges and such. And that is costly because I rely on my stamina to deal damage here. And having it basically have less is going to just be an unfortunate thing I'm going to have to deal with. I got an auto parry there on the attack even though I didn't dodge it. But it should be fine. Managing to get all the way up to 3 minutes here in terms of time, which is nice to have. Is it perfect dodge? Oh no, it's only killing an enemy with weapons restores double stamina. So yeah, this is a very bad curse that I want to get rid of, basically. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to fight a boss where I rely a lot on my stamina for it, which is the twin demigods, I believe they're called. But yeah. It is just going to be an interesting fight for that. You always want to make sure you dip back because when enemies destroy little environment pieces like that, they will just immediately detonate. 5% of critical heals you. I think I'm going to need to take that just for some amount of sustain during boss fights. It's especially beneficial because of how much damage I deal on my critical attack, which is the last attack I do. I could just take a free room with this and move on, but I think I need the gold by going to a weapon room. I could have saved time by just doing it, but thankfully it's an arena here, which is very easy to clear by itself. As you see there, I deal quite a bit of HP whenever I do that, as well as I'm healing 1% HP on any greed kills. So my sustain now is very well developed. I'm going to try and deal with the dead wives just to prevent the ranged attacks. I'm not going to commit as hard as I did previously to that, just because I don't want to take extra damage here. I'm going to go after the champion, or elite dead wife. Managed to hit both of them there with my finisher attack, which allowed me to kill both in one swing, which is what I wanted to do there. Managed to be a very quick room and no hits, so I still get my dex bonus. Literally the same weapon, same level as well. Gonna pass on it because no point in spending gold where I don't need to. But yeah, this timer has become a lot less stressful since I've been able to deal with it well, but boss fights are going to just drag it down into the ground. Yeah, this boss fight itself is very stressful because you need to actually deal with the boss. I'm not going to go for the parry strat, which gives you a chance at getting their drops. Even though I've just auto-parried twice now, which makes me very much want to do said action. But yeah, I'm going to dip back to just avoid it. changes phases, it detonates all of them, which is something to consider. Whenever it does that attack animation, you just want to get out of the way. I am going to spend time to build up my stamina again in between my attacks and the enemy's attack pattern. That last dash there you see the 8 boss doing will always go in your direction. So even if you misdirect it with the initial part, it will still go after you. And back on the sun phase again, you don't want to come into it on low stamina because it will just immediately go into doing its attacks. I'm actually managing to stun it into its dark phase immediately again. I did an extra dodge there just to ensure that I actually got away from it. Maintaining a bit more distance to try and get the same effect. As you see with my stamina, I'm just always trying to keep at least one after my combo to dodge, and I managed to clear through it. Oh wow, it costs that much to get a live 2D rig. I personally don't know how to evaluate it well, just to be... Wow, that's a nice benefit since I'm not changing my main weapon. I don't know how much it actually ends up being, because obviously I am not all that great of an artist as of yet. But that seems like a very, very expensive price for just a large number of images, basically. Though in fairness, depending on the level of the work, I'm fine with people asking for it. It's just hard to see. I'm not going to give up my HP. It only heals me. I may as well take the health. I don't need it. It's unfortunate that I'm basically wasting these. I could get the additional perception to try and actually get... I think I'm going to take the extra perception to try and hit enough gold for these upgrades. And I want to go this path, yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said. It takes a lot of time and work to try and bridge the gap between the two, between 3D and 2D, and make it look as seamless as some manage to. And that is definitely worth the money, as I see it. Unfortunately, this one just lights everything on fire, and I didn't properly plan for it, so I took 10 damage. But yeah, some of the live 2D I've seen on some of the popular channels is very much insane, and I assume it costs thousands and thousands of dollars for that level of live 2D that they do. As you're seeing here, since we're past the second boss, we're now getting the higher level of elites, as in there's more of them, and we can get the more obnoxious ones, this being one of them. I'm a lot lower on time than I want to be right now, personally. I actually don't know if these guys give time back, which makes it very unfortunate to go against the champion ones. It doesn't actually give time. I'm not going to spend the time to get that gold. I should, but my timer I need to maintain as much as possible because of the fact that Tiamat is a very long boss fight. That was a very, very generous arc that I usually don't see besides on the elite version. I don't know how I've taken 2 hits to that enemy. That is quite insane. It should be dead, but it's not dead. And that cost me a lot of things, and puts me in a very bad situation. But now I get to deal with it, and that's kind of the fun of it, I guess. Hopefully I'm going to run into an item on the ground that will heal me some amount. But if I don't, I will be in a very, very sad state. I need to be rushing through these rooms as much as possible to try and make sure that I am actually able to get to the boss with enough time to deal with it. Managed to get an auto parry there on an enemy that I kind of needed to be spaced from. As you've seen before, it very much destroys me when given the chance. The Jaguar turret there actually just took out the enemy, which I can appreciate. There we go, 12% max HP, heals up the majority of that damage I had just taken. There's a Blood Priest here, and it is indeed an elite. Why do I have my torch out? I accidentally had my torch out there, which cost me a number of attack animations, basically. And it gave it the opportunity to spawn in an enemy. Which I obviously want to avoid when at all possible. Getting hit from behind there is unfortunate, but I'm just going to equate it to trying to save time by quickly killing the Blood Priest. That was just a terrible mistake. I dodged in the wrong direction, and it cost me a quarter of my health. And that's where it comes in with... This game does get a bit unfortunate at times where you start taking these massive hits and runs that you thought were going well all of a sudden turn around from what feels at times to be minor misplays. And this is why I don't like the Jaguar elites, by the way, because they just spam their attacks repeatedly. And they will dodge out of your attacks. They can try, as such. And they waste your time. Which is not something you want to do in this mode, it seems. I shouldn't have gone for that Crystal Skull. I'm going to be missing out on so many Crystal Skulls by doing this mode, just because of the fact of how much it costs to do so. I should have enough to offer gold for this and still for the weapon upgrade coming up. Sorry about that. Temple's Bite is an unfortunate one. Basically makes the spike traps triggered automatically, and they just do this little rhythmic pattern. And that rhythmic pattern is just kind of obnoxious. It auto-parried while I dodged there, which I'm fine with once again. It just means that I don't have one less thing to deal with. I'm going to need to work really hard to deal with this, because otherwise it's going to really suck. 3 elites for this phase of the arena fight is unfortunate. I got very lucky there with dodges and managed to not take a hit there somehow, but yeah. Tomahawk is looking a bit out of sight at this point because my build just doesn't have the damage to deal with anything going on right now. It takes so long to kill any number of champions, and my timer bar is not getting sustained well, to say the least. I do manage to get rid of the Blood Priest fairly quickly. I'm gonna go back for this weapon upgrade, grab it and go, basically. Minute 19. Unless I get some ridiculously easy rooms with a lot of enemies to deal with, then I don't think this is going to be a win. An arena fight? Perfect. What's not going to be perfect is the fact that a lot of them are going to come up as elites. As you saw there, the auto parry was just kind of nice. Should be able to damage it, but I'm not going to risk it in case it hits. I'll get through it. As you see, I'm dealing with these rooms and just not making any profit in terms of time, which is not what I want right now. I want to be making up as much time as possible before Tomahawk, where I won't be able to add any to my own timer. saw there, I can dodge straight through the Dead Wife's attack pattern, which is a fine thing to do if you're just low on time. Didn't realize I had another phase to this room. The fact that I keep getting Elite Blood Priests is really killing this because I cannot damage them quickly enough to deal with this. Thankfully it decided to heal the enemy, meaning I could kill it before it spawned something, but you saw in previous rooms where it would spawn a number of enemies and just result in me wasting a large amount of time. Fourth curse. It's so hard to decide. Yeah, I'm gonna go for it. Basically can't spend any more curse now. And I'm not gonna go to the next weapon upgrade room as well because of it. Basically, I have this coming door here, and this door here, that's 60 curse. That lets me take 20 additional curse without hitting the 5th curse. If I hit the 5th curse, I basically lose. Yeah, speaking consistently is very, very difficult. And especially with this kind of game, you'll hear me go very silent or at times pause, and that's literally just because I'm trying to focus enough that I don't get hit. And like there, I was not focusing well enough and got hit, and then followed it up by getting hit again. But yeah, it's a good skill to learn, it's a good skill to make use of, and it just comes from doing it a lot. Doing it in IB, talking with some of my friends and so forth is ultimately what led me to what I have now. I do wish I could involve others, yeah, so I could have more people to stream, but Shadow Word is very, very bad. It's one of the most negative curses that I see, basically, and this is the effect of the previous curse that I got. It does that. I'm not going to go for the extra gold, because there's no reason to risk anything. I'm going to see what this relic can get me. I'm going to reroll through it as well. If I can get the highest tier curse one, then I will take it and give myself max curse, because that gives me a chance at winning. I do not get it. But I do get this. This is going to take it. That's basically how I'm treating it. Gonna give up the fire damage for it, as well as get a massive constitution boost. Yeah, and that isn't something very important to do, is give yourself breaks when speaking. It's why occasionally I do go silent to like take a sip of water or so forth. But yeah, as you see here, I don't see any enemies, but there is indeed enemies. And they'll only start appearing when they start attacking. Which is not what you want. I need to get after this Blood Priest now. He's already summoned 2 different enemies. I believe there's spikes at the edge of this room. There wasn't. And I take a hit there. I do manage to get rid of the Blood Priest though. Unfortunately, both of these champions here will not give me any drops at all towards time. I should go for that, but I walked past it. I don't know how the kill effect is going to work with that relic that I grabbed, but hopefully it just adds a minute, because if it does, I stand a chance. Unfortunately, that Shadow Brazier curse that I've had that doesn't really do much overall ended up costing me a quicker kill there because of the fact that it put out the Jaguar Temple, or the Jaguar Statue Fire. I thought I dodged that, but I didn't. I'm taking a lot of bad hits here in the name of rushing because I am so low on time. Talamok's fight is very, very long. And it's why I'm being so risky, but I don't think I'm going to have enough time even with how risky I'm playing, and especially with the curse that I have that is causing the rhythmic pattern here. I got hit by the same thing twice. It's just making it very hard to do anything. I cannot afford this corruption. That would be very powerful though. I just need to move on. As you see there, I'm taking so many hits to the temple itself, which is never what you want to do with this sort of thing. And as you see there, the Jaguar Elite's attacking me across the map when I can't even see it. is not the most friendly thing. That should be a finish on it, yep. And I just need to get going from this room. Okay, we're at Taamok, and I have 30 seconds. Okay, have fun, Simulons. Good luck with class in the morning, and downloading Forza, I guess. I'm gonna have to be super risky here and parry some attacks, or else I have zero chance of actually beating this boss. Got a hit there. And unfortunately I almost died, but I am about to die anyways from the curse. Will I resurrect? It appears I will not. It kills me through my 50% heal, but that's all good. Yeah, Headless Guardian's taking a lot of damage. A lot of gold collected, some skulls, some health restored. But I just took a lot of bad damage and couldn't get enough damage up to deal with it. But yeah, man, with that being it, I think I am going to have to leave it here for the night. I didn't make very much progress, but I got to see my first look at some of the harder difficulties, or the hardest I should say, and kind of just learning from there. So I hope everyone who was here had a good time. Anyone watching on YouTube, I hope they have a good time. And basically just have a great rest of your night, great rest of your day, however it be. Good luck and have fun.